Hi, this is Steve, and as you probably know, I'm the owner of Kava Candy. I'm hanging out with Douglas LaRose, the Kavasseur. I'm out in Baltimore. How you doing, Douglas?
Hey Steve, how you doing? I'm doing good.
Oh, good, man. Well, hey, I know that we're both big proponents of Kava. I got my Kava Candy here, and I know that you're. What kind of Kava are you drinking?
I am drinking Kava Supreme from Kavafied.
Oh,
A,
nice, nice.
nice, strong Vanuatu Kava. Yeah,
Oh, cool. Yeah, that's
yeah,
good stuff. Yeah.
it is.
Awesome, man. Well, I know that there's a lot of stuff going on in the world, and I know that we're both big proponents of mental health. I know that there's a lot of, anxiety out there. There's also a lot of stress, trying to get to the store, figuring out what we may need, what we might need, and then new announcements coming. It seems like every hour these days with, some establishments going down, and we're all trying to refigure out our lives. I wanted to ask you, I've been thinking about you because I know that you have a particular perspective living in Africa and also being down in Sudan and South Sudan, which is pretty interesting because, over there you kind of deal with, these type of crisis, really all the time, food shortages, a lot of people in camps and things like that. Also, Ebola, different, pandemics in their own right. But just, I don't know if this will put people at ease or, get them a little more, but just wanted to get your perspective, especially being in the States and being in Baltimore. I wanted to find
Yeah.
out your thoughts.
Well, I think there are two different important things to think about in this kind of situation. And like the first thing is how we manage our own lives and keep ourselves stable, mentally stable and deal with anxiety. And then the other part of it is, how we function in society and how we, follow the guidelines that are being given to us for things like coronavirus. And I guess I'll talk about the first part of that. Um, you know, when I was in South Sudan in 2015, it was in the middle of a civil war, and it was really, really stressful, as you can probably imagine, living in a guest house in like rural South Sudan, where I could hear mortars and gunfire at night, and and I actually did develop some very unhealthy coping mechanisms. Like such as taking diazepam, which is Valium, or drinking beer, um, and and I had already known about Kava at that point. The Kavasseur website had already been up for 5 years, but I couldn't get any Kava in South Sudan.
Yeah, I
So
remember
it,
that.
it,
Yeah.
it became really important for me to exercise, to eat really healthy, fresh foods like low salt foods, things that directly from the farm. Um, th- that became really healthy, and all reading and writing and practicing some kind of artistic expression became really healthy. And I think that during this coronavirus pandemic, the cost the cost on people's mental health is going to be very taxing. um, and that luckily we do have access to things like Kava. um, you know you can just go online and order Kava, so it's a little bit easier for us. But still, I think that people are going to, after weeks and weeks of being held up in their apartments, they're going to start panicking. And there are ways that you can get ahead of that, by going outside, getting some sunshine, walking around. When you get home, maybe make some Kava. Make sure you're eating healthy. If you're not eating healthy, like that's going to catch up to you at night, and you're going to be feeling depressed. You're going to have like serotonin draining out.
Mhm.
So yeah, this is all kind of resonates for me in my prior experiences.
Yeah.
I will say that this is it's unusual to be experiencing this in my in my own culture. This is the first time that I've lived in the U.S. Since 9/11, where there was so much panic, and I'd say that right now it's actually probably a little bit worse than 9/11.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
I feel like that if there's anybody prepared, I was thinking, it'd be you in a sense. That I was like, yeah, but once you're kind of put in a different environment that you're kind of used to, the same things, start to happen. We were talking about this a little bit earlier, with toilet paper, and naturally being, in Hawaii, I think that we're a little bit more paranoid than most. Just hurricane scare or anything else, we are isolated on an island, and everybody knows that if the boats can't come into the dock, they come in every 3 days. That we're kind of screwed. You know what I mean? That's just,
Yeah.
that's almost like literally in a sense, because we don't have way to like drive, and kind of go somewhere else. Like you're literally kind of stuck. I'm not saying that that justifies, the panic buying that we have and things like that. I almost kind of thought that, man, Douglas might think that we're kind of like soft in the United States, meaning it's like fighting over toilet paper. And I was like, guys, don't get me wrong. I went out and got toilet paper for our family too. But we ain't going to die if we don't have toilet paper. You know what I mean? It's like water, food supply, stuff like that, of course, that, we need. But I mean, what's your thoughts? Like, do you think that we're soft, in a sense in the United States, I guess, compared to, Sudan? I don't want to put you on the spot, but you know what I mean? It is kind of an interesting perspective.
I don't think that we're soft per se. I think that we're inexperienced. We don't have a wealth of experience, going through things like this to kind of refer to when we make decisions. I will say that the toilet paper thing is very ridiculous in my opinion. Like I was really kind of surprised and somewhat like concerned for the well-being of my fellow citizens when I saw people stockpiling toilet paper and hand sanitizer. I just, it doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, if you're in a situation where you have like a whole room full of toilet paper, or I'll put it this way: if you're in a situation where you're held up in your house and things have gotten so bad that you can't go out and get anything off the shelves, the toilet paper isn't going to be what saves you.
Yeah, that's true. No, and I think
hand sanitizer.
yeah, and I think that you do bring up a good point, which is just the inexperience, and I think that a lot of us in the situations are inexperienced unless we have been to, like you, as literally a civil war, zone and things like that. I do think that, to even for my own personal anxiety and stress, and, we're dealing, we take care of my father-in-law who's 96 years old. So we're super cautious.
Wow.
Him. But just kind of putting things into perspective like that, it's like, yes, I mean, some of these things, are pretty, difficult, but at the same time, like toilet paper probably isn't going to bring you down. You know what I mean?
No.
Us in Hawaii, we have tea leaves and stuff, but that's not to say that we don't have problems that we need to think about. And, if we plan ahead accordingly, that we can kind of ease a lot of that stress and anxiety. But, hopefully still continue to have access to, online shopping and things like that. And we haven't gone that far down the road, but I think that that's what we're trying to prevent from happening.
Well, and I will say that, when I laugh about toilet paper and hand sanitizer, people shouldn't feel stupid either. The people who did go out and stockpile toilet paper, they shouldn't like look at their toilet paper and think like, "Oh, I'm such an idiot." It's like I said, people don't have anything to refer to. They've never had these kind of experiences before, so they were doing what they thought was the most logical thing, and
and
someday
like
they'll look back and they'll just laugh. It's.
Yeah. And I was saying even for myself, we got toilet paper, and I think, hey, if my in-laws we'll probably use a decent amount of toilet paper if we can't get any. We certainly got some
right.
and stuff also, but I think as a reminder for both of us, we just want the Kava community to be safe. I know people, some people do want to be out there, but in the common good of everybody, and especially our elderlies and the kapuna here on the islands, just kind of advising the orders and kind of staying in is the best. Any last thoughts?
Yes. Yeah, no, I think that's a really important point. All of the social distancing, trying to interact with as few people as possible in your day-to-day kind of comings and goings is really going to make all the difference in this. And I say that from the perspective of somebody who, I worked in emergency situations where refugees, camps of like 50,000 or more people, where there were cholera outbreaks, different viral outbreaks, different kinds of flu and things like that, where it was all about reducing contact, getting people to wash their hands, making sure that people, were cooking in a hygienic environment, and distributing things to them to let them do that. And then the most important thing was the messaging. And as you listen to the radio and you turn on the TV, you're hearing these messages, try to stay at home if you can. If you're working from home, try to stay at home as much as you can. Go to the store when there's not that many people there. Because even if you're young and healthy, you don't want to be carrying the virus and infect somebody else who's young and healthy, who's taking care of their 90-year-old parents. You don't want to be in the way that I put it on one of my Facebook posts is you don't want to be an unwilling cog in the machine of coronavirus.
Yeah.
Try your best to comply with these what seemed like really oppressive guidelines from the Center for Disease Control, the CDC. Try your best to comply with those, because the only way that we're going to be able to flatten the curve and make this thing manageable is by all of us doing our part.
Yeah. And what I try to remind people too is that, you look at, any sort of models that you look at with any type of pandemic situation, it can go up really fast. And I think, there's some people who think that this is an overreaction, but actually it's probably the right reaction, because once you get over a certain tipping point, like, as, explaining to some people, hey, how many hospital beds do they really have with ventilators? For people, and say if that's a small hospital in, a town or something where, who knows, maybe they have 5-10 beds or something, or 5 ventilators. Even if you have 5 more people come in, then you start getting in a situation where you have to open up, a high school gym and isolate people. And then if you need the machines, you don't have it. And so that could potentially be 5 people in your community that immediately pass away, And so right. Just the sensitive situation of that, if we can stay in front of it, then it's going to pay off, huge. But once this gets over a certain edge, it's going to be tough, and I think that's right. Why they shut down some things like that. So if we remember, that it is for the greater good of really all the world, at this point, that, a couple weeks of doing this, I know that it sucks. My stepson, he works in a restaurant, and, his, job got, cut, essentially the restaurant got shut down. But, that's, a tough thing that everybody has to deal with. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, you look at a country like South Korea, who, right when they had their first case of coronavirus, they put in these kind of measures, and it actually ended up being like a really successful, they really successfully battled back against coronavirus and are on the mend. And then you look at a country like Italy, who is, culturally probably more familiar with the United States. And, people don't want to be told what to do. They want to go out. They want to go to the bars. They want to go to the beach. But people that are doing that are contributing to the problem and are going to make it much worse, when we already had a 500% increase in cases over the past 7 days. So, you don't want to be a part of, pushing those numbers up. And, having, worked on projects in these refugee camps, it's really painful when you're giving people advice and they don't follow it. And then, you're hearing that 10 people are dying every day. That's something that really, you can't sleep at night when you know that the messages that you're getting out aren't working. So I just, I really would implore everybody to listen to those messages and to, think of elderly people, and in particular, and just, we have to have respect for our elders, and certainly we don't want them to die and to be, or to have permanent lung damage. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, sounds good. Well, hey, thanks so much for taking the time. To talk about
absolutely, Stephen. It's a pleasure.
Tough times, but on a good note, I mean, we haven't talked for a while, and it's a pleasure to talk to you. And I know that you're at home, I'm at home. We're able to do this and socialize in some capacity. And so I hope others, in the Kava forums and other places are doing the same. So, I know for both of us, we wish all of you guys safe health. Take care of,
absolutely.
And we'll get through this.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Stephen. This is a great, public service to put something like this together. I'm happy to be part of it.
Awesome. Sounds good, Douglas. And always, hey, little aloha goes a long way. Aloha. So aloha, brother.